Hello everyone, welcome to eGet.ai. In this video, we will talk about model-based reflex agents. So, when we talked about simple reflex agents, one of the major issue was if the environment is partially observable, then the simple reflex agents were not able to perform correctly, right? We saw an example of vacuum cleaner world where the location sensor was not working. So in that case, vacuum cleaner was being stuck in infinite loop, right? So in order to handle the partially observable environments, we have to somehow store the some internal information about the world. So basically, if along with the current percept, we can have some knowledge of the world, right? So when I say some knowledge of the world, there can be two things, right? So one is how the world evolves independent of the agent, right? Because agent is operating in an environment, so agent is operating in a world, so that will also change, right? Suppose for vacuum cleaner world, right, the block A or B can be clean or dirty, so that is the world which changes over time, right? So agent will have to somehow keep track of this information, that how the world is changing, right? The second thing is that how agents action change the world, right? Because suppose in the vacuum cleaner world, if the agent's action is to suck all the dirt, then the world will change, right? If the agent is in block A, it will clean the block, right? So there are two information that agent has to store so that it knows some part of unobservable environment. This will not solve all the problems, but at least now the agent has some kind of information about the world, right? So to store this kind of information, that how the world works, is called modeling, right? Is called a model. So in model based reflex agents, we are dependent on the current percept as well as on the internal state that every agent has to maintain, right? So let's look at the similar block diagram that we had seen for simple reflex agent. So this is the diagram from the book Artificial Intelligence, a Modern Approach by Russell and Norvig. We are following this very standard book for this course. So if we will see that previously we only had the current percept information, right? But now we have these two extra things. This is like how the world evolves and what my actions do. So these two information agent has to maintain. This is what we call as internal state. So this is the state that we are talking about. It will take the current percept as well as these two information, and then we will get to know what is the world right now, right? And then rest part is the same. It will have an idea of the world. Now it will match that with the condition action rules, and then it will do the actions which will change the environment. So now let's try to write the agent program for this model based reflex agents. This is the standard agent program for model based reflex agents. As I was mentioning, it will take the current percept, right? So it has to persist four thing. One is a state, that is the what is the current conception of the world, and model, which will have the description of how the next state depends on the current state and actions, right? And the rules same as last time, condition action rules and actions, that is it will store the most recent action. It won't have to store all the action, because all these things will be necessary to update the state, right? Because the internal state of agent will also change over time, right? So it has to maintain the most updated information about the world, and that will be possible only if it has an idea of what action it has taken and how the world has changed because of the actions, right? So that part we are calling as model. So as you can see, this update state function will take the current state and the actions, which will have the history of the most recent actions, the current percept and the model. Then it will get the updated state, and this updated state will be matched with the rules, and then we will get the action according to the particular condition action rule, and we will return the action, right? So you might feel these a little confusing, but when we will solve some examples, you will have a more clear idea of how these model-based reflex agent work. This is actually very simple because in the upcoming lectures, we will dive more into these kinds of agents and we will learn more about the state model rules and actions, right? So you don't have to worry at this moment. So now in model-based reflex agents, the agent now has the current percept as well as some information about the world. But there is an issue. What is the issue? We haven't talked about goal, right? So ultimately, every agent will have some goal, right? So if we don't have any goal, agent might be doing some actions which are not necessary, right? So I wanted to show these two images. These have been taken from the CMU lecture. So if you look at the first image, this agent wants to get the apple from this tree, right? But it has not planned anything, right? It only sees the apple and it tries to get it, right? It will just jump, but there is this gap here, right? So it will fall because this agent is not worried about its action. It's only seeing the current percept. Okay, this is the apple, let me jump and get the apple. But what will happen after it will jump? It will fall into this, right? So this is a nice example of simple reflex agents, right? Because you are not thinking, you are only looking at the current percept, right? Which is the apple is there, and if you will jump, right, you don't have idea what will happen if you will take this action, right? And in the second one, okay, agent knows if it will jump, it will fall into this, right? It knows what will be the consequences of its actions, right? So it will plan ahead and it will play smartly and it will use this stick to get this apple, right? This is an example of say model based and goal based agent, right? Because here you have an idea what will happen with your actions and you also know that your goal is to get this apple, right? So we want to design these kind of agents that can know what will be the consequences of their actions and they know their goal and then they do the actions, right? So in the next video we will talk about goal based agent and also utility based agent. Thank you so much.